everybody, welcome to another edition of James Jam. I'm Jane. This is my jam, and this is my Thursday book video. And today I'm going to talk to you about a series that's super important to me. By far my most favorite series of all, my most favorite author. And if you don't read another book, at least pick up one book by this author, and I'll go into details as to which book and why and things like that. When I was young, I started my love of reading, and somehow along the way, I picked up a book by Maud Hart Lovelace. And I love books in a series, I always have. And Maud Hart Lovelace put out a book called Betsy and Tacy. I just was intrigued by the names, and honestly, Maud's name, her name is Maud Hart Lovelace, the author. And this starts out when Betsy's 4 years old and she's about to have her 5th year birthday party. And she meets the girl across the street who is Tacy. We believe that's short for Anastasia, and Betsy is short for Elizabeth. And they meet when Tacy comes over for Betsy's birthday party. They live across the street from each other. And they live in a town called Deep Valley. And Deep Valley is actually Mankato, Minnesota. And Betsy is actually Maud Hart herself. And Tacy is actually Maud Hart's best friend in real life. And these books are autobiographical, and they started when Maud started telling stories of her childhood to her daughter Marion. And Marion just loved hearing them. Maud was already an author and decided to start writing out these stories, and they are just phenomenal. They are fascinating. They are so good. And they are worth reading from the start to the finish. Yes, there are some younger books in there, but they're still extremely interesting. And I just love them. So they were illustrated by different illustrators. Primarily, there were 2 illustrators. Lois Lenski, she's pretty famous child illustrator. And then after the girls got a little older, it was thought by HarperCollins that her illustrations might be a little too juvenile, so the illustrator was switched to Vera Neville. And as much as I love the Lois Lenski illustrations, the Neville ones, be still my little heart. I do think at some point I will be getting a tattoo to represent these books, and it'll probably be a Vera Neville tattoo. And I'll show you more about that as we talk. But it starts out with the 2 girls, and they become friends. Tacy comes from a very big family. Betsy just has an older sister. And it just kind of talks about their first day of school together. Tacy was extremely shy. She had red ringlets. And then Betsy has just 2 braids. And just cute little stories, kind of getting an introduction to Deep Valley a little bit. Betsy's father owns a shoe store. And at the end of the first book, they meet another little girl, or they go to call on this, what they call the chocolate house. There is a house around the corner that's just gorgeous. And they leave one of their mom's calling cards at the house. And it's set in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. I know late 1800s, somewhere in there. And so they still had calling cards and things like that. And it's just such a cute little story. And at the beginning of the next story, it's called Betsy, Tacy, and Tib. And at this point, Thelma Mueller joins them. She goes by Tib, and she had just come from Milwaukee. And her family's very German, and she has 2 younger brothers. And they all meet, and they become Betsy, Tacy, and Tib. And people think that they're going to have problem because there's three, and three doesn't always get along, but they get along fantastic. And what they do is, usually Betsy's the big dreamer. She'll think of things they should do or play, or kind of leads them on their little stories, and or to what they do. And just their adventures are super cute. At one point, Betsy's allowed to have Tacy and Tib come to the house, and they make what's called everything pudding. Tib is kind of the baker, and they decide that if they put absolutely everything in the house, in the kitchen, into bake in one pan, that it should be really delicious. So they do, and you just have to read the outcome to find out how that goes on. The next story ends up being Betsy and Tacy go over the big hill, where they go over to a Syrian colony and meet a little Syrian princess. And still just, they do Queen of the May, and it's just really good. And then the final book of when they're younger. So Betsy Tacy is primarily when Betsy's 5. Betsy, Tacy, and Tib take place more about like 5 through like maybe 6 or so, or 6 or 8, somewhere in there. Then there's Betsy and Tacy go over the big hill, and the original title was Over the Big Hill, and then they added Betsy Tacy to it later. Then the 4th book is Betsy and Tacy Go Downtown, and the original title was Downtown. And I do have a first edition library copy of that book, and you can see how it was just called Downtown. Here's one of the illustrations. Betsy writes up in a tree. A lot of times she keeps a cigar box up there with her pencils and paper. And my favorite chapter of this book is when Betsy goes to the library. And you can see her going in here for the first time. And her dad drops her off at the library, and she has 5 cents. And she goes to the library. She meets the librarian, who plays a big part in her life. And she gets a book to read. She gets to go across the street for lunch with her money, come back and read, and then her dad picks her back up. But she just starts a whole lifetime of reading. And let's see, I was going to see if there was a picture of the 3 girls in here. They end up doing a play, and all 3 girls are in it. And she discovers her Uncle Keith. Here, this one's cute. This is Betsy. This is Tacy. This is Winona, another very important character. And this is Tib. And she's getting up on this, like, horse in one of the stories. But these basically cover till they're around, I believe, around 10 or so. And then what happens is that's when they progressed to the high school books. And then it's a lot easier to tell where you're at. The first high school book, when Betsy is a freshman, is called Heaven to Betsy. You can see the different illustrations here. They're a lot more grown up. Let's see, these are Vera Neville illustrations. And now Tacy has her hair up in cornet braids, and Betsy just wears hers and whatever's popular. You can see here, there's Tacy and Betsy, and they're getting their seats on the first day of school. They end up with a whole little crowd of people. There's Betsy and Tacy. Tib has went back to Milwaukee, so she's not in the story. They meet up with Carney and Herbert and Herbert's brother, and they have a whole little gang. And again, these are all autobiographical. They are actual people that she knew and hung around with. So you go through in Heaven to Betsy, her freshman year, she gets her first love, and it's just so, the way they write it is just so tender, so sweet, so perfect. Then the next book is Betsy in Spite of Herself, and in this one, she meets Philip, and has her next great love, and she actually goes to Milwaukee to see Tib and hang around in Milwaukee, and it gives a lot of information about Milwaukee and what the city was like then at the time. Let's see, I was just paging through here. Gonna try to find just showing some of the pictures here. I just love this. This is Betsy now. She's got her hair up more in a pompadour, and that's Tib, one of Tib's little brothers, and the 7 little dwarfs. There's a story to that. That's about her sophomore year. Then comes Betsy was a junior. This is my favorite book out of all of them. And in this book, Tib is back now in Deep Valley. Everybody loves Tib. Cute little tiny. She's really tiny compared to the other girls. Betsy, again, brings a few more people into her crowd, and kind of like the love of her life is introduced in this book. Well, he's introduced in the freshman book. He kind of goes along in some of the books until he's a little more prevalent in this one. And just all their adventures in high school and the dances, and there's essays, essay cups and sports events, and there's Philomathians and Philomathians and Zephylathians. I think that the high school is broken up into teams, and it's just they hang around in their crowd, and they go to parties, and they do dinners like at each person's house. It's phenomenal. And then finally, we get Betsy together with Joe, the person that we've wanted her to be with since she was a freshman. And they graduate from high school, and they basically go off into the world. And then after that, we have Betsy in the Great World. And Betsy actually goes on a ship over to Europe and visits Germany and a number of other countries. And this is all about her time on the ship and in the other countries. And she ends up coming home at the beginning of World War I. And when she comes home, she gets married. And this tells about her first years of married life and how difficult it can be, and compromises you have to make, and how to make a home. And it's just, these books are fantastic. There are 10 books about Betsy, like Betsy primarily. And then there's some spin-off books. There's Carney's House Party, and that's about one of her high school crowd friends, Carney. There's Emily of Deep Valley. Now, Betsy appears in that book, but as a side character. It's primarily about a girl named Emily Webster, who kind of comes into her own. She graduates from high school. She's not going to college like everybody else, and she just goes on to find ways to make her life meaningful and fulfilled while still being at home. And then my most treasured book of any of them is this. And this is Winona's Pony Cart. Now, Winona is an important character in the books. She's very close with Betsy Tacy and Tim, and stays that way throughout their lifetime. This was a side book, and this is primarily about just Winona and her little pony. And the reason this book is so important is I have loved this book. A lot of the Betsy Tacy books were not in print for a long time. They went out of print, and a Betsy Tacy Society was formed, and I was part of it. We worked really, really hard to get HarperCollins to republish the books. And they did. And they did them in some, I don't have any here, just not so nice illustrated paperbacks. The illustrations within the books were the same as the original, but the covers were just not good. They were done by the same person who did the, I think their name is Diane Good. She did the re-illustrations for Ballet Shoes by Noel Stratfield and her books. But these didn't turn out as well. So actually, after that came HarperCollins hired a new illustrator, and then the books turned out really cute. Again, the reissues are primarily in paperback, but we were able to get all the 10 primary Betsy Tacy books reprinted. However, for years and years they weren't. So like some of the money I spent, I've probably spent over $100 on a couple of those books because they weren't in print at the time and I had to have them. But this book was at a library in southern Wisconsin, and my mom contacted them because this book was easily about $200 to $300 to buy it, and that would be without a dust jacket. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to find one otherwise. And she contacted the library and she asked if she could buy the book, and they told her that it hadn't been checked out since it was checked out in August of '79, and then it hadn't been checked out again until April of '95, and then it hadn't been checked out again since then. So they told her she could have it. And she sent them a donation, and they sent this book. And she brought it over to me while I was working, and oh my gosh, I just cried my eyes out. Because I didn't think I'd ever get the book. I didn't know if they'd ever be back in print. At the time, the other books weren't in print yet either. And I sobbed. I just didn't think I'd ever get to see that book or read it. But as it is, now all the books are available. All 13 of them you can get. And there is a Betsy Tacy Society and a Maud Hart Lovelace Society. And I apologize, the Betsy Tacy Society is the one that got the books reprinted. You can actually go to Mankato and you can tour Betsy's original home and Tacy's original home. They were both purchased by the Betsy Tacy Society and are maintained by the Betsy Tacy Society. And they also, there's a map of Deep Valley you can get if you go there, and it'll take you around to everybody's houses, everybody in the books. There was a wonderful book put out by Charlotte Whalen called The Betsy Tacy Companion that gives the back and true story of every single main character in the books and some side characters. Just phenomenal. That is unfortunately out of print, and I don't know that it's ever going to go back in print again. The books were put out in numerous different ways. Scholastic Book Club put out a book in, I believe, the 70s, Betsy and Tacy Go Downtown, and that was, the cover was illustrated by a Lisa Weil, I think it's W-E-I-L. The Scholastic Books, or HarperCollins, put together the first 6 in a little like omnibus at one point. Some of there's the first 4 books sometimes are put together in a hardcover called the Betsy Tacy Treasury. But the series is so good. It's just incredible. They now have some of Maud's scrapbooks and diaries that are available to be viewed at, I believe they're at the Mankato Library. I'd have to look into that, though, to figure out where they for sure are. It's just amazing. I've been there to go through the houses. You can buy a paver, and I think they're $100, and you can have stuff engraved on it. I've had a couple of those done. There's a society, the Betsy Tacy Society, you can join. You can join it annually, or I don't know if they do lifetimes or not anymore. I do a lifetime. There's a Maud put out some other non-Betsy Tacy books that are good, but nothing like these. These are like nothing I've ever read before, and I adore them. I just can't say enough good things. If I was ever going to recommend a book, it would be a Maud Hart Lovelace book, bar none, for sure, to everybody. And if you only were going to pick one to read to see if you might like it, I would say to read Betsy Was a Junior, but I would just encourage you to read all of them. They are fantastic. You can find them in thrift stores here and there. They are available through the Society. I believe you can still order them in Barnes & Noble or any other normal booksellers. I know they're on ebooks. They're like none other. They're fantastic. So I would say yes, out of all the series books there are, out of all the books there are, these by far are my favorites. I just adore them. Another really good series is the Beanie Malone series by Lenora Mattingly Weber. And Janet Lambert also put out a ton of really good series books. But bar none, the Betsy Tacy series is the best. I highly, 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 highly recommend the books. They're phenomenal. They're from a different time. The dresses sound so good. And Miss Mix, she's the sewing lady who comes to make their outfits at like the beginning of the year and then at spring break. Just the way they celebrate the holidays, and there's dances, and they have their little cards that you got to sign your name to dance with the person. And, you know, Betsy's boy crazy. Tacy isn't. Tibbs probably more boy crazy. They're just so good. So that's what I thought I'd talk about today is, my favorite series of all time, bar none. Nothing else even comes close. I really like a lot of books, and I really like a lot of books a lot. But these books, they are, I come back to them all the time. I'm always reading at least one. Right now, I just finished Betsy Was a Junior. Again, they're great comfort reading. Just innocent and first love and the love of your life, and just even her adventures over in the other countries, going to the passion play in Germany, and it just amazing. And to think that these were all based on real people, it's incredible. They're just an incredible group of books. I can't say enough good things about them. I was gonna say, let's see. Let's just look at the dresses on there, right? And let's look here. Here they're getting each other ready for a party. And Betsy gets her furs for Christmas. And let's see here. I love Vera Neville's drawings. They are just so incredible. They have their telephones. And, yeah, just phenomenal books. So, that's what I have to say about those. Next time I will have, I'm sure, a haul for you. I have a few new books in, but by the time 2 weeks rolls around, I'm sure I'll have a lot more to show you. So I thought I'd just give you the information about my favorite author. If you want to hear about some of my other favorite authors, just let me know. I'd be glad to do that. If you have any favorites that you'd like to hear about or know if I know about them, let me know. I did read a lot of series books, older ones. Previously, like I said, I read most of Lenora Mattingly Weber's books, any of her series books I've read. I've read all the Janet Lambert books, and there are a lot. I've read Marjorie Hall, Margaret Sutton's Judy Bolton books. I've read all those. Barbara Gray, I've read. Some Nancy Drew, Little House on the Prairie, just all kinds of them. So if there's any in particular you'd like to hear about, especially, or know if I've read, let me know. Otherwise, subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, please do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.